You hear it everywhere, right? It's the mantra on T-shirts, lyrics and songs, Edith Piaf, even tattoos, no regrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Like those examples you found, Amber Chase, Marella Batista, people literally branding themselves with it.
Exactly. Some even intentionally misspelling it, which is kind of funny. But the message is clear. Live without looking back. Be totally okay with every single choice.
It's this powerful sounding idea, just push forward, never doubt. Deeply ingrained,
It really is. But here's where our deep dive gets, really interesting. Because the research we've been digging into, huge studies like the American Regret Project, the World Regret Survey.
Massive undertakings. That World Regret Survey collected, over 16,000 regrets from 105 countries.
Incredible scale. And researchers like Daniel Pink, who spearheaded a lot of this, their findings argue that this whole no regrets philosophy, it's fundamentally misguided.
Yeah, the sources basically say it's dead wrong.
Dead wrong. So, far from being something bad we need to squash, regret is actually normal, healthy even.
Normal, healthy, and surprisingly essential. That's what the science suggests. It's a core human emotion.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then, to really understand why regret isn't the villain we make it out to be.
Right. We want to unpack what it tells us about ourselves, what its deep structure reveals.
And crucially, figure out how we can actually use it.
Mm-hmm.
Harness that sometimes painful feeling to make better decisions, live better lives.
Think of it less like avoiding a negative feeling and more like learning to use a powerful internal guidance system, how to listen to it, learn from it.
All right, let's jump in. Why is regret so important? What makes it tick?
Okay, so first, let's get clear on what regret actually is. Because it's not just feeling sad or disappointed about something.
Right, and it feels different.
It does. The research defines it very specifically. It's a negative feeling that pops up when you compare what actually happened, the real outcome, to a better outcome you can easily imagine could have happened. And this is the key bit: you blame yourself, your own choice or action, for ending up with the worst result.
Okay, so that self-blame, that sense of, I could have done differently, that's crucial.
Exactly. It's tied to things you feel you had some control over. You don't regret a hurricane hitting. Maybe you regret not preparing for it, but not the storm itself. But you do regret, say, choosing the wrong investment.
Because you made the choice. Got it. And you said it's common, despite the no regrets tattoos.
Oh, incredibly common. It consistently ranks as one of the emotions people experience most frequently. Some surveys suggest people regret something like 30% of their weekly decisions.
30%. Wow. That's a lot more than you'd think. So what's going on in our heads that lets us even do this, feel this way?
Yeah, the cognitive science here is pretty cool. Regret depends on some really quite sophisticated mental tools that we develop as kids, usually around age 6 to 8.
Like what kind of tools?
Well, two big ones. First, mental time travel, the ability to cast your mind back into the past.
Okay.
And second, something called counterfactual thinking.
Counterfactual. That sounds like the what-if game, right? What might have been?
Precisely. It's the if only I had, or what if I'd chosen differently. We run these simulations in our head of alternative realities based on past choices. That ability to imagine things that didn't actually happen is fundamental to feeling regret.
So it's common, and it requires these complex brain functions. Does that mean if you can't feel regret, that's actually a problem?
It absolutely can be, yes. The research is quite clear on this. An inability or impaired ability to experience regret can be a symptom of brain damage or certain cognitive conditions.
Really? Like what?
Things like Huntington's disease, Parkinson's, even schizophrenia can affect the brain circuits involved in regret. And actually, clinicians sometimes use tests that assess regret processing as part of cognitive evaluations.
Wow. Okay, that completely flips the script. So the ability to feel regret isn't weakness. It's actually a sign of a healthy, functioning brain. It's sort of necessary for normal thinking.
It really is. The sources use this great analogy from finance. You know Harry Markowitz and his Nobel Prize for modern portfolio theory.
Vaguely. Diversification, right.
Yep.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. He showed you get the best balance of risk and return, not by picking one safe thing, but by diversifying your investments, spreading things out.
Okay. How does that relate to emotions?
Well, our emotional lives work in a surprisingly similar way. A truly healthy emotional life isn't just about maximizing positive feelings and eliminating negative ones. It requires a diverse portfolio of emotions, including the negative ones like regret.
So trying to suppress regret is like only investing in bonds or something. Too narrow.
Kind of, yeah. It leaves you emotionally unbalanced, less able to learn and adapt. A diversified emotional portfolio where you experience and process negative feelings like regret constructively actually leads to greater overall well-being and, importantly, better future decisions.
Okay, I'm starting to see how it's normal, maybe even necessary for a healthy mind.
Yeah.
But how does this feeling, which honestly often feels pretty lousy, how does it actually help us? What are the tangible benefits?
Right. This is where we get into the adaptive power of regret. Why evolution might have kept it around. The core idea the research points to is simple. The pain of regret today results in a better tomorrow.
The discomfort has a purpose. Okay, what's the first way it helps?
First, it significantly improves our decision-making. Regret acts like a brake, making us pause and think more carefully next time.
How so?
When we reflect on a bad outcome caused by a poor choice, that memory makes us more likely to consider more options, gather more info, and be more deliberate when a similar situation comes up again. It's a built-in defense against things like escalation of commitment.
Escalation of commitment.
Yeah.
That's like throwing good money after bad, sticking with something failing just because you've already sunk time into it.
Exactly, like staying in a dead-end job just because you've been there 5 years. Regret about past sunk costs can help you cut your losses next time. The sources mention CEOs, parents, people who explicitly said reflecting on regrets help them make smarter choices later. It gives you a kind of a mental map of what not to do.
So basically, learning from mistakes. Makes sense. What's benefit number 2?
It enhances performance. Regret can be a powerful motivator. It boosts persistence.
Look, if you regret bombing a test because you didn't study.
Precisely. That feeling makes you want to avoid repeating it. The research shows students who felt that kind of regret actually spent significantly more time studying for their next exam. It lights a fire under you.
Pushes you to try harder.
Yeah. And there's this really fascinating study on scientists. They found that scientists who narrowly missed making a big discovery, felt that acute. If only I'd done that experiment slightly differently,
Can I name?
regret.
Yeah. Did they give up?
No, quite the opposite. They were actually more likely to have highly successful, influential careers after that near miss. The regret didn't crush them. It spurred them to reflect, refine their methods, and push harder.
Wow. That's completely counterintuitive. Failing or almost succeeding made them better.
Turn the sting of regret into fuel for future success. And the third main benefit is that regret strengthens relationships.
How does that work?
Well, when we mess up interpersonally, hurt someone's feelings, neglect a friendship, the regret we feel motivates us to repair the damage. We're more likely to apologize, make amends, and put more effort into nurturing that connection moving forward.
So it makes us better friends, partners, family members, ideally.
It pushes us in that direction, yeah. It highlights the importance of those bonds. Now, you mentioned counterfactual thinking earlier, that what-if stuff.
Right.
That's really key to understanding the feeling of regret and why it motivates us. There are basically two main types: upward counterfactuals and downward counterfactuals.
You could break those down for me.
Upward counterfactuals are the classic if-onlys. They focus on how things could have been better. If only I had studied more. If only I had asked her out.
Right. Those usually make you feel worse, don't they?
They do, in the moment.
Right.
Because you're dwelling on a better reality you didn't get. But, and this is crucial, these if-onlys are the primary engine for future improvement. They signal what you need to change. We generate way more of these.
And the other type?
Wow.
Downward.
Downward counterfactuals are the at-leasts. They focus on how things could have been worse. Well, I messed up the presentation, but at least I didn't get fired.
Finding the silver lining.
Exactly. And these tend to make you feel better in the short term, providing comfort. But they don't usually motivate change in the same way.
This makes me think of that famous study about the Olympic medal winners.
Yes, it's the perfect illustration. Remember how bronze medalists often look happier on the podium than silver medalists?
Yeah, which seems totally backward. Silver is better than bronze.
Right. But the thinking is bronze medalists are often making downward counterfactuals. Wow, at least I got a medal. I almost got nothing. They compare themselves to fourth place.
Okay.
Whereas silver medalists are often tortured by upward counterfactuals. If only I had pushed a little harder, I almost won gold. They compare themselves to first place.
So the silver medalist feels the regret more acutely.
Much more. One study actually rated their immediate post-event happiness. Bronze medalists average like a 7.1 out of 10. Silver medalists, only 4.8.
That's a huge difference. Wow.
It really hammers home how our if only and at least thinking shapes our feelings, and how that if only pain, while uncomfortable, is what really drives us to do better next time.
So regret is painful, yeah, but it's like an internal coach pointing out where we can improve.
That's a great way to put it. It's a guide.
Okay, so regret is useful. It improves decisions, performance, relationships. But the research you mentioned also talks about a deep structure of regret. What's that all about?
This is maybe one of the most profound findings from those big surveys, like the World Regret Survey. The idea is borrowed from linguistics, actually. Like Noam Chomsky talked about how all human languages, despite sounding different on the surface.
Right, French is different from Japanese.
Exactly. But underneath, he argued, they share a common underlying grammar, a deep structure. The regret research found something similar. People regret millions of specific things, the surface structure.
Like regretting not buying Apple stock or regretting that horrible perm I got in the 90s.
Exactly. Those are surface regrets. But when you analyze thousands and thousands of these regrets from all over the world, they consistently boil down to just a few fundamental themes. The underlying reason it's a regret, that's the deep structure.
So different stories, same underlying plots. What are these universal themes? The 4 core regrets.
That's right. The research revealed 4 core regrets that transcend culture, age, gender. They really show us what humans fundamentally value most.
Okay, lay them on me. What's the first one?
First up, foundation regrets. These are regrets about not being diligent or responsible enough, especially earlier in life. Choosing short-term ease over long-term stability.
The shoulda, woulda, coulda. Regrets about practical stuff.
Pretty much. Things like neglecting your health, smoking, not exercising, not saving money or managing finances wisely, not working hard enough in school or early in your career.
Things that have long-term consequences.
Exactly. They often sound like, if only I had done the work. It's the ant and the grasshopper story, basically. The grasshopper has major foundation regrets come winter. These can feel heavy because the effects compound, and you can't easily rewind time.
Yeah, you can't undo 20 years of not saving.
Right. But the important caveat here is, while you can't change the past, you can always start building now. Like that Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It's never too late to start strengthening your foundation.
That's hopeful. Okay, foundation regrets. What's number 2?
Boldness regrets. These are the opposite, in a way. They're about not doing something, failing to take a chance, speak up, seize an opportunity, usually because of fear or shyness.
Oh, the regrets of inaction, the one that got away.
Exactly. Not asking someone out, not traveling when you had the chance, not starting that business, not speaking your mind, not pursuing a dream. The source material had that really sad story about Bruce.
The guy on the train in France.
Yeah, who met this woman, Sandra, had an amazing connection, but didn't get off the train with her. And 40 years later, he still deeply regretted not taking that chance.
Oof, that aches just hearing it.
It does. And what makes these inaction regrets, these boldness regrets, often sting longer than regrets about actions we did take is the uncertainty. If you took an action and it failed, okay, you know the outcome. But if you didn't act, your mind can endlessly replay what might have been. The possibilities are infinite and often idealized.
That makes sense. The unknown potential feels worse than a known failure. Okay, what's the 3rd core regret?
Moral regrets. These stem from times when we chose the wrong path. When we acted unethically, hurt someone, deceived, cheated, were disloyal, basically violating our own sense of right and wrong.
These sound like they'd be really painful.
They often are reported as the most painful, yeah, because they're not just about a bad outcome. They're about feeling you betrayed your own values, your own moral code. It taps into fundamental human needs for fairness, trust, and cooperation, concepts that people like Jonathan Haidt talk about in moral foundations theory. Hurting others, infidelity, lying. These actions damage trust and violate our sense of who we ought to be.
A gap between your actions and your values. Heavy stuff. And the last one, the 4th.
Connection regrets. These are all about relationships, specifically relationships that have fractured, faded, or were never fully realized. They hit right at our fundamental human need to belong.
Like losing touch with old friends or family rifts.
Both. The sources differentiate between rifts, relationships broken by active conflict or betrayal, and drifts, the more common scenario where friendships just slowly fade away due to neglect or lack of effort, like that story of Cheryl and Jen, college best friends who just stopped calling.
I think everyone can relate to that feeling.
Absolutely. And there's also a distinction between closed-door regrets, where the chance to connect or reconcile is truly gone. Maybe someone passed away, like the Amy and Deepa story.
Right.
And open-door regrets, where the relationship has drifted, but theoretically you could still reach out. It might be awkward, but the door isn't fully closed.
And this connects back to that huge Harvard study, doesn't it? The Grant study.
It absolutely does. That study, following men for nearly 80 years, found the single strongest predictor of long-term happiness and health wasn't money or career success. It was the quality of their close relationships. Their conclusion was stark. Happiness is love, full stop.
Wow.
So it's no surprise that people universally regret neglecting these vital connections, especially with family. The research suggests reaching out even after years is almost always less awkward than we fear and can bring immense relief.
So these four, foundation, boldness, moral, and connection, they map out the essential ingredients of a fulfilling life, according to what we regret not having or doing.
That's exactly it. They reveal what we value most deeply: stability, foundation, growth, boldness, goodness, moral, and love, connection. Regret shines a spotlight on the gap between the life we have and the life we want, or the person we are versus the person we aspire to be.
Okay, understanding this is powerful.
Yeah.
But knowing regret is inevitable, and even valuable doesn't stop it from hurting sometimes. So how do we actually use it? How do we move from feeling bad to learning the lesson?
That's the crucial next step: harnessing the power. Not just wallowing, not just ignoring it. The research points to a pretty clear, actionable process. Usually involves 3 key steps.
All right, let's hear them. Step 1 for harnessing regret.
Self-disclosure. It sounds simple, but just talking about your regret or writing it down is incredibly effective.
Talking to a friend. Or just journaling.
Either. Sharing it with someone you trust can provide comfort and perspective. But even just writing about it privately helps. It does a couple of things. It provides emotional relief, gets it out of the endless loop in your head, and it helps you process it cognitively, moving it from just a raw feeling to something you can analyze and make sense of.
Sort of translates it from emotion into language, which the thinking brain can handle better.
Exactly. Step 2 is self-compassion, and this is really important. It's different from self-esteem.
How so?
Self-esteem is about judging yourself, often comparing yourself to others. Self-compassion, drawing on work by people like Krista Neff, is about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a good friend who messed up.
Instead of beating yourself up, you treat yourself like a human.
Precisely. It involves 3 things: recognizing your own suffering and being kind to yourself about it. Understanding that failure and imperfection are part of the shared human experience, not something isolating you. And maintaining a balanced perspective, not letting the regret completely define you. It's a learnable skill, and it's linked to better coping, resilience, health. You name it.
So asking yourself, would I talk to my friend this harshly?
Exactly. Or is everyone else perfect? Or do all humans make mistakes? Or is this one moment the sum total of who I am? Those kinds of questions foster self-compassion.
That feels like a much healthier approach than just harsh self-criticism. What's step 3?
Self-distancing. This means looking at the regretful situation from a more detached, objective perspective, like stepping back to see the bigger picture.
How you do that? Zoom out.
Yeah. There are a few techniques. You can use spatial distance, imagine you're a fly on the wall watching the event unfold, or temporal distance, project yourself forward in time and ask, how will I see this a year from now, 10 years from now? Often, the intensity fades with time. And you can even use linguistic distance. Instead of thinking, why did I do that? Try asking, why did he should do that? Or even, what were you thinking? Using the second or third person creates a little psychological space.
Interesting. So it helps you analyze the situation for lessons without getting swamped by the immediate emotion again.
That's the goal. Disclosure gets it out, compassion makes it safe to examine, and distancing provides the perspective needed to learn. Those 3 steps are a powerful combo for turning regret into something productive.
And the sources mention some other techniques too, right? Like regret circles or failure resumes.
Yeah, things like sharing regrets in a supportive group, explicitly listing past failures and the lessons learned, a failure resume, connecting New Year's resolutions directly to past regrets to fuel motivation, or even doing pimental subtraction.
Pimental subtraction, what's that?
It's imagining your life without the good things you currently have. Maybe things that resulted from past choices you don't regret, or just good fortune. It can boost gratitude and make you appreciate what you have, reframing past struggles.
That's a cool mind trick. So, lots of tools. What of the flip side? Trying to prevent regret by anticipating it. Thinking ahead, will I regret doing this or not doing this?
Anticipating regret. That's a really interesting one. It can be super useful, but also tricky.
Useful how?
Well, thinking about potential future regret can definitely motivate positive behavior now. Like, I'll regret it if I don't start exercising, can actually get you to the gym. Or think about Alfred Nobel.
The Nobel Prize guy.
Yeah. He supposedly read his own obituary prematurely. They mistakenly published it when his brother died, and it called him a merchant of death for inventing dynamite. The anticipated regret about that legacy apparently spurred him to establish the prizes.
Wow, talk about a motivator.
Or Jeff Bezos using his regret minimization framework. He imagined himself at 80, looking back. Would he regret leaving a stable job to start this crazy online bookstore? Or would he regret not trying? He figured he'd regret not trying way more.
So it can push you towards those boldness actions we talked about?
Definitely. But there's a downside. We're actually pretty bad at predicting how much regret we'll feel. We tend to overestimate the intensity and duration of future regret.
So we worry about regretting things more than we actually will.
Often, yes. And that overestimation can lead to problems. Too much anxiety, playing it way too safe, risk aversion, getting stuck and unable to decide, decision paralysis. It's partly why people fall for the first instinct fallacy on multiple choice tests.
What's that?
It's the belief that your first answer is usually right, so you shouldn't change it. People fear the regret of changing a right answer to wrong more than they fear the regret of sticking with a wrong answer. But statistically, changing your answer when you have a good reason often improves your score.
Huh. So the fear of regret makes us make worse decisions sometimes.
It can. It can also lead us to choose an option that's just good enough, rather than striving for the potentially best option, because the best might involve more uncertainty and thus more potential for future regret if it goes wrong.
So anticipating regret is a tool, but you got to use it wisely. Don't let the fear of future regret paralyze you today.
Exactly. It's about balance. Recognizing when that foresight is helpful and when it's just anxiety holding you back.
This whole deep dive has really turned my thinking on regret upside down. It's not the enemy. It's not failure. It's deeply human.
It's fundamental, necessary, and incredibly informative. It's like this built-in feedback system telling us what we value.
Our internal compass pointing towards that foundation, that boldness, that morality, those connections.
Exactly. And the key isn't to break the compass. It's to learn how to read it. By processing regret, constructively disclosing, being compassionate, getting distance, we turn the pain into progress.
We learn, we grow, we adjust course. We move towards a life that feels more authentic, more aligned with what really matters.
It transforms regret from this heavy weight you drag around into a guide, lighting the way forward.
So, thinking about all this, maybe thinking about what might show up on your own personal World Regret survey entry. Here's a final thought to leave you with. What's one small thing, one tiny step you could maybe take today or this week to start building a slightly stronger foundation, or to be just a little bit bolder about something?
Or maybe to act with a bit more integrity in one situation, or reach out to strengthen one connection that feels like it's drifting. What's the most important lesson your regret might be trying to teach you right now?